Dear friends, I, Mr. Vishal Shah, Assistant Professor Krishna Institute of Pharmacy, Karad, once again welcome you all to this at another session on the Flourimetry. In this video, we are going to focus mainly on the applications part of the Flourimeter, as well as what is the meaning of quenching of fluorescence, and we will see what is the difference between the single beam as well as the double beam Flourimeter. In previous video, we have seen in detail about the what is the instrumentation of the Flourimeter. Now, if you have not watched the previous video, just I request you can subscribe to my YouTube channel. You can watch previous videos related to the instrumental methods of analysis. Now, let's begin our today's session. Before that, just we will see what are the learning outcomes of this session. After this session, learners will be able to explain difference between the single beam and double beam Flourimeter, quenching of fluorescence, and applications of the Flourimeters. Now, first we will see what is the meaning of single beam and double beam Flourimeters. Now, in single beam Flourimeters, tungsten lamp is used as a source of light. They are using mainly the filters. The primary filter absorb the visible radiations and transmit the UV radiations. Emitted radiation measured at 90 degrees Celsius by secondary filters. Then secondary filters absorb the UV radiations and transmit the visible radiation. Now, what are the advantages of these single beam Flourimeters? It's very simple in construction. Also, it is very easy to use and economical as compared to the double beam Flourimeters. What are the disadvantages? It is not possible to use reference solution and the sample solution at a time, and also rapid scanning to obtain excitation and emission spectrum of the compound is not possible with the help of the single beam Flourimeter. Now, what is the meaning of double beam Flourimeter? Generally, in case of double beam Flourimeter, we can use the beam splitter, which will carry out the splitting of the beam into reference into equal amount, where one beam will pass through a reference sample and other beam will pass through our sample. So, here two incident beams of light source are used, which pass through primary filters separately and fall. One is falling on the sample and other one is falling on the reference solution. Means at a time we are going to use the reference as well as sample. So, that will carry out the reduction in the time in the analysis. The emitted radiation from sample or reference pass separately through a secondary filters also. So, that is why it is very easy to carry out the detection of the light that is passing through a sample as well as the reference which is falling or which is going to the detector. Then what are the disadvantages of this particular double beam Flourimeter? Sample and reference solution can be analyzed simultaneously. Then what is the disadvantage of this double beam Flourimeter? Rapid scanning is not possible due to the use of filters. Now, Flourimeters are mainly consisting of the use of filters. Now, today higher version of Flourimeters are available, which are known as the spectropluorimeters. The use of that Flourimeter and spectropluorimeter is same, only the way by which they work that is different. In spectropluorimeters, we are going to use the monochromators instead of the filters, because due to the use of the monochromators, we increase the accuracy as well as the precision. Because monochromators that are mainly consisting of the grating monochromators, they are highly sensitive as compared to the prisms, and that is why they are generally utilized. So, this is the difference between the single beam and double beam Flourimeters. Next, after this we are going to see the term quenching, which is generally known as the quenching of fluorescence. Now, what is the meaning of quenching? Decrease in fluorescence intensity due to the specific effects of constituent of the solution, that is the concentration, pH, pressure of chemical substances, temperature as well as the viscosity. So if there is a decrease in the fluorescence intensity takes place, that effect is known as the quenching of the fluorescence. There are 4 different types of quenchings are there. One is self-quenching, second one chemical quenching, third one is the static quenching, and fourth one is the collision quenching. Now first we will discuss about the what is the meaning of collision quenching. I hope you have understood what is the meaning of quenching. It is nothing but the decrease in the fluorescence intensity. Now this decrease in the intensity of fluorescence may be due to the different effects. That effect may be the concentration, pH, pressure of chemical substance, temperature as well as the viscosity. Now what is the meaning of collisional quenching? It reduces fluorescence by collision, where number of collision increase, hence quenching takes place. Means whatever the molecules that are present in our sample, due to the collision between these molecules between each other, as well as the molecules will collide on the surface of our sample cell, and due to which there is a decrease in the intensity is observed. Collision between the fluorescent substance and halide ion leads to the reduction in the fluorescence intensity. If our sample is consisting of a halide as a impurities, collision due to the fluorescent substance as well as the halide, which leads into the reduction in the fluorescence intensity. So this is the first type of the quenching. Then second type of the quenching is self quenching, which is also known as the concentration quenching, because this quenching is due to the concentration. At low concentration there is a linearity, and at high concentration of the same substance increase in the fluorescent intensity is observed. Means the intensity and concentration, they are linearly, there is a directly relation between the concentration as well as the intensity of the fluorescence that is produced. But at low concentration this linearity is observed, but at high concentration same substance does not show any linearity, and increase in the fluorescence activity is observed. This is known as the self quenching, and because this is due to the concentration difference, that's why this quenching is also known as the concentration quenching. This phenomenon is known as the self quenching. Then third type of quenching is static quenching. This occurs because of complex formation between the fluorescent molecule and the other molecule. For example, caffeine reduces the fluorescence of the riboflavin. Here riboflavin acts as a fluorescent molecule. Caffeine will carry out the formation of complex with the riboflavin, and due to which the fluorescence of riboflavin is decreased. This type of the quenching is known as the static quenching. Then last type of the quenching is nothing but the chemical quenching. Here decrease in the fluorescence intensity is due to the factors like pH, presence of oxygen, halides as well as the heavy metals. For example, how pH will affect the quenching? If we consider the example of aniline, aniline will show fluorescence at only pH between the 5 to 13, but at pH less than 5 and greater than 13 it does not show any fluorescence. Means pH of that particular solution also affect this particular quenching, or intensity of that fluorescence is decreased. That's why this is known as the chemical quenching. Then presence of halides. Halides like chlorides, bromides and iodides, as well as the electron withdrawing groups like nitro group, then carboxylic acid group, if they are present on the fluorescent molecule, that also leads into the quenching. Then heavy metals leads to the quenching because of the collision of the triplet ground state. And static quenching, already we have observed this particular static quenching. So these are the various types of the quenching that are observed in that particular molecule. Then another term, that is the photo decomposition. Now due to the excitation of weakly fluorescing or dilute solutions with intense light source will cause the photochemical decomposition of the analyte, that is known as the photo decomposition. Now this photo decomposition can be minimized by use of longest feasible wavelength for excitation that does not introduce the light scattering effects. Measure the fluorescence immediately after excitation to decrease the duration of excitation. Also protect the unstable solutions from ambient light by storing them in the dark bottles and remove the dissolved oxygen from the solution, by which we can decrease the photo decomposition effect. Also, decomposition introduces non-linear response curves and loss of majority of sample fluorescence is observed. That's why it is necessary to minimize the photo decomposition effect. After this, we will see what are the applications of this particular fluorimetry. One of the most prominent application of the fluorimeter is a determination of the uranium. This is generally used in our nuclear research for the purpose of determination of the uranium. Then also this is used for the analysis of the inorganic ions. Generally, inorganic ions do not exhibit the fluorescence. However, some of these inorganic ions form the fluorescent chelates with the non-fluorescent organic molecules. Means organic molecules are combined, inorganic ions are combined with the different non-fluorescent organic molecule, which leads into the formation of the chelates, and these chelates will show the different fluorescence. Whereas inorganic ions like ruthenium, aluminum, calcium are analyzed by using this particular technique. This uranium is also analyzed by using the same technique, where it is forming chelation on the presence of the nitric acid. Then after this, next one of the important application of the fluorimetry is fluorescent indicators. Now the intensity and color of fluorescence of many substances depends upon the pH of the solution. That is, the color depends upon the pH of that particular solution. These are termed as the fluorescent indicator. They are mainly used in the acid base titration. Eosine, for example, in acidic condition, eosine shows colorless, while in basic condition it will show green color. Means depending upon the pH, the color of this particular eosine will be changed, and that's why this particular are used as a fluorescent indicator. Then fluorescein, which is also colorless in acidic condition, but it shows green color in the basic condition. Similarly, quinine sulfate. So these are the various fluorescent indicators that are used. Acridine show green color in acidic condition, while violet color in the basic condition. Then next application is fluorimetric reagents. Now the most successful fluorimetric reagents are used for the cation analysis. They are generally used for the analysis of the different metal ions. Now these fluorimetric reagents will form the chelates with the metal ions, as they are having several donor functional groups. For example, 8-hydroxyquinoline, benzoyl. These substances having certain donor functional groups, they will form a chelate with the metal ions. That's why fluorimeter can be used by using fluorimetric reagent to carry out the analysis of the different metals. One of the most important application of fluorimetry is a determination of vitamin B1 and vitamin B2. As we know, vitamin B1 is thiamine, which is a non-fluorescent, whereas if we carry out the oxidation of this vitamin B1, it will form the thiochrome, which will show a blue colored fluorescence. So this property is used for the determination of vitamin B1 in different food samples like meat, cereals, by using this fluorimetry application. Similarly, vitamin B2 is also determined by carrying out the oxidation of this particular vitamin B2. Also, fluorimetry is used in the organic analysis also, where qualitative and quantitative analysis of organic aromatic compounds present in the cigarette, smoke and air pollutants, automobile exhausts is generally carried out by using this fluorimetry. For example, determination of benzopyrene that is present in this particular cigarette smoke as well as the air pollutants, that is determined by using this particular fluorimetry. So these are the various applications of the fluorimeter. Now you are having this exercise, go to this particular website, use passcode that is provided on your group, and you can answer the question that is provided on this particular website. Thank you. If you like the content of this particular video, you can subscribe to my YouTube channel, as well as you can share with your friends. Thank you.